So what's up, guys? MainManSWE here, hoping you're all doing awesome as always. Everyone on YouTube and everyone watching live, it is my great honor to have Lord Arya from Blasted Salami on my stream. I'm a huge fan of his stuff, and specifically a viewer wanted me to talk about Tekken 8 wish lists, and immediately Arya comes to mind. He made an incredible video that I suggest everyone watch. I'll be posting this on YouTube, so I'll be linking his video, but he goes into great detail on every single little nugget he would like to see in Tekken 8, and I couldn't agree more on most of the stuff he mentions. So welcome, Arya. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well, man. Thank you so much for having me here. That little rant I did on Tekken 8 was kind of just an off-the-cuff stream, some thoughts on the direction I'd like to see, Tekken going in the future. But yeah, we'd be really happy to talk about it, and a real pleasure to have you to be on the stream here.
The pleasure is mine. So like the first thing I want to ask is like, so for Tekken 8, as we've talked about quite a few times already, do you want to see innovation or refinement of Tekken 7?
I feel that I did a poll on this like a few months ago, and I asked really blunt, like, what would you rather see in Tekken 8, innovation or refinement? And the results came out, I think 70% of people want refinement, 30% innovation. Yeah. And honestly, I was a little bit disappointed at that. But I can understand it. And I think I can understand it because, like, we're old men, right? We've been playing this game for decades. And, like, if you've been playing Tekken, like, even semi-competitively since 2004, you'd have known that, like, this game hasn't really fundamentally changed all that much in the past 15 years. I think Tekken 7 as it is now, even Season 3, I think this is quite possibly, if not the best, one of the best Tekkens out there. And I love Tekken, don't get me wrong. When I'm asking for something new, it's not because I hate Tekken. But right. I also feel like so many of the current problems, they're not about balance. They're more rooted in the fact that the foundation of Tekken is really old now. Yeah. And like so many, what they've done is they've tried to add fixes on top of fixes on top of fixes and rub this out and try to, but really I think a new approach has to be taken. Right. One that recognizes the inherent strengths of the Tekken engine and build upon that. I mean, it's very easy for me to say that because I'm just basically saying, hey, Bandai Namco, spend lots of money and take a huge risk. Yeah. But yeah, I think I would like to see innovative refinements. That's what I'd like to see.
Right, and I just want to clarify quickly because I feel like we're almost using big words here. So that poll Arya did on Twitter, it was basically so a 50-50 innovation or refinement. And innovation, what he means there is that they take Tekken 7 and they change it up. They are very creative with the gameplay and they do something else rather than pretty much, Tekken 5.5. It's like, it's not an exaggeration to say we've been playing Tekken 5 for 15 years, I think. And the other option was refinement. Tekken 7, it's amazing. Let's make sure Tekken 8 is basically Tekken 7, but fine-tuned a little bit more and with better graphics. And as you said, 70% of people wanted to see refinement. So it seems like the majority of people want to keep playing Tekken 7, but with better graphics. Would that kill you, Arya, or?
Look, I think that's pretty much how Tekken 8 is going to go. And I'd be excited to, I'll play it. Yeah, I'll love it probably. But I can't say I wouldn't be a little bit disappointed. Like, some of the stuff I said I wanted in that video is, just there are so many animations from 1994 that are still lingering in Tekken. Like the fundamental, like Tekken is any, like, even intermediate level play, it more and more becomes about movement. And movement in Tekken, considering how integral it is, looks janky. Like it looks like two people kind of, having a seizure, moving back and forth. It doesn't
Yeah.
look natural or organic at all. And like, why? I just find it weird how they're not smoothing that over. It's like 70% of the gameplay loop, and you want it to look good. Like when a new player tunes into Tekken for the first time, that's what they're going to see. Like, so instead of
Yeah.
these two characters like janking around, wouldn't it be cool to have some kind of bespoke animations for the characters? Like wouldn't it be
Yeah.
cool if characters had like individualistic side steps, like that portrayed their character a bit? Like Kazuya could kind of move to the side a bit, or like Lily could do a more graceful step. I always love it when gameplay and visuals are in tune with one another. For
Can I
example,
just interrupt you super quickly? Like, I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
you mentioning this specifically in your video, and I just had this moment where I was like, how can I never have thought about this myself? And I can just agree 1000%. Like, imagine how much the characters would stand out from one another if they all moved in very distinct ways. Kazuya has his own backdash animation and sidestep, and they all have that, and it goes, in line with their personality and their neutral fighting stance. And holy shit, that would be so. It would immediately give them so much added character, I think. So, just a fantastic point, and I don't think anyone has ever mentioned that before. So, good shit.
I, I mean, look, the reason why I started playing fighting games, and why I imagine a lot of people started playing fighting games, is because fighting games give you an unprecedented amount of control over your character. Um, and you see a character you like, and you think, oh, I want to master that.
Mm.
Like, I'm sure, like, when you saw Kazuya, you thought, he's really cool. And I love his gameplay loop, and I love his overall style, and I really want to get into this. I want to be, like, at one with this character,
Definitely.
It's a really... and it's total, this is the strength of fighting games. And I always feel a bit disappointed how developers are not taking advantage of this. Like, root your game around your characters. That's the most interesting part of
Yeah.
fighting games, being able to express yourself through another character.
Right.
And the more expression you give to the character, the more expression you can give to the player as well. Like, and Tekken has a bit of this already. And I think it's one of the reasons why it's so popular. Like for example, Kazuya's animations. You can see he really goes all in with all of his moves. Like
Yeah.
his down forward two, really putting himself into it. Hit with his hell sweep, his spine is literally breaking. But he's a high risk, high reward character. His animations and his gameplay feed into one another, and so does his story. That's why he's interesting. Look at Heihachi. He's much more controlled, balanced, and his gameplay reflects that. He's not about going in for the big 50-50s. He's about controlling space.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool, and I think that's what they need to focus on for fighting games, especially Tekken.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The attention to detail in the animations is incredible, and I think that's a very large part of the overall selling point of Tekken. But just again, going back to the fact that most people want to see refinement. You and I want to see innovation because we've been, slightly older than the average dude in the community, I think. We've been playing this game for a long time. So if you could just choose one thing you got to change, what would be your priority number one? And I'm not saying now gameplay or story. I want you to pick something a little bit more specific in the game that you'd like to see changed.
I think the number one priority, really, and I'm sure Harada and developers and code know this, is netcode. It's all
No.
for naught. If you don't have good netcode, you can have the best animation, the best gameplay loop, you can have the best fighting game ever. It's irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant.
Arya, I just want to tell you, I know you're for season 4, you're hoping for 6 new characters. I'd trade all of that for rollback netcode, but that's just me. That's just me.
No, absolutely.
I know you'd probably agree. Yeah.
I don't think it's even a question at this point. I think that's what everyone wants. I think we all just want to actually play this game.
Yeah.
Like, we're all stuck at home, and like the netcode is really bad. I didn't even know how. Like I was fortunate enough before COVID hit to have a pretty active offline community, which is where I played most of the time. And now that I'm being forced to actually play this game online, I'm like, my God. Like, I understand why you're all so salty now. Like, it's infuriating.
Yeah, it can be really horrible. But honestly,
Sure.
instead of, I mean, we're most likely getting a season 4 now. We're all waiting for the big announcement stream. But imagine if it just improved the game's functionality. Instead of adding characters like rollback netcode, some more game modes, making the existing modes a little bit more reliable. I like to play tournament mode online, and it's notoriously unstable. If they just got to work really well what's already there, I mean, rollback netcode would... Do you really need more characters? Just make the 50 characters already in operate better, you know, with netcode balance. But what are the odds of us getting like really good rollback netcode?
Look, I get the idea. I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised here, because I get the feeling with what Harada and Murray have been saying that they recognize the problem and they're going to address it.
Right.
So look, there's a part of me that wants to be pleasantly surprised here, but you're right. We don't need any more characters at this point. Like we have a lot. Like they're heavily implying with the there's a Lee picture, and there's a Matsuya restaurant in the background, and Matsuya is a chain of like not fast food, but like it's a chain of restaurants in Japan. It's heavily featured in the Yakuza series, so that's heavily implying that maybe Kiryu will finally be in.
I mean, I would say so. Why else would they? Why else would he specifically tweet a picture featuring that Lee picture?
Yeah, exactly.
He must know what people are immediately gonna think of.
It'll be a massive troll, I feel, if a Yakuza character. I'd personally prefer them to have Majima. I think he's a much more interesting character, Goro Majima. But like, you know, pretty sure Kiryu Kazuma would make it. But yeah, look, like maybe one guest character, maybe if there's one returning character I'd like to see, it's maybe Kunimitsu or June. And June mostly so we can have that ghost mom standoff against Kazumi and June. That'd be pretty fun.
Oh, that would be fun, yeah.
Yeah.
But oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, but like I said, like I don't think this game needs more characters. It needs to fill in the holes in the package. I was talking about this on a podcast with Margin Obama. Like, fighting games have really kind of failed to realize their potential in this way, in that features and functionality that was commonplace 2 decades ago has suddenly kind of disappeared. Why? You know?
Right.
Like, as you said, stuff like team battle and whatnot. That's pretty important, I feel. And how hard is it to implement?
And make it an online feature. I don't understand. Or a Tekken. Imagine season 4. I mean, I'm a sucker for Tekken Force mode, but them adding that and maybe having a co-op, like, and you can go for high scores in it and compete with others globally and leaderboards. I mean, I don't know, but to me, it would add so much in terms of lifetime to the game, and I don't know how hard it is to implement, but I can only agree with you on everything you said. And I just want to jump to something completely different. Looking at Leroy and Fakumram and their gameplay designs rather than their, visual art designs, how worried are you about, the series going forward in this direction, basically? Do you think it's an ominous sign of things to come with original characters in Tekken 8?
I think particularly Leroy. Leroy was really taking the piss, to be frank. It's so clear that character was designed to be overtuned in every way imaginable. most disappointingly in a really boring way. They just said, hey, let's just
Yeah.
throw the kitchen sink with this character. Let's give all the best moves, all the best versions of the best moves, and give it all to Leroy.
No, honestly, I see it as the greatest ball drop of all time. It's like, you could argue that he's the coolest. I would honestly listen to someone saying, I find this to be the greatest Tekken character design ever. I would say, oh, you know, you could argue that. And you could easily say he's the greatest original character in 15 years. You can easily argue that. No. And then what do they do with his gameplay? It's honestly the worst designed character in 15 years. You could say the same thing. And that's heartbreaking to me. And yeah, going forward, what does that mean? But so Fakumram, you don't see him as big of a... I mean, apparently Pakistan feels he's worse than launched Leroy.
I'm not one to argue with Pakistani players. Like, I get the feeling that at least with Fakumram, they didn't go into it overtly with the idea of making this character overtuned. I think they legitimately tried to make this a somewhat balanced character. And let's not forget that most new characters in Tekken, when they first come out, are overtuned. That's just how Tekken balancing works. Shaheen, when he first came out, stupidly overpowered. Claudio, stupidly overpowered. Kazumi, stupidly overpowered. Bob, Tekken 6, Lars, Bloodline Rebellion, all stupidly overpowered. And they kind of chip away at them over time. That's just how Tekken development works. They release their vision for this character, like, just give them everything, and then they chip away to make them fit in the game.
Right. I agree with you somewhat, but you also have Negan, Noctis, Gigas, Lucky Chloe, Katarina. As obnoxious as some of those are, why do you think they give Fakumram like Tekken 5 style, you know, hyper movement? Yeah, what's the thought process there, do you think?
You know, I have a feeling it's more to do with the backdash speed being linked to the size of his legs. I have a feeling that a lot of the issues with Fakumram are unintentional. Because, and it might partially be due to lack of development time from COVID. Because we saw that first trailer with him standing off against Marduk, and we all kind of laughed at how short he was. And I'm pretty sure they picked up on that, and they just kind of stretched him out before they released him. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of the problems, especially relating to his hurt box, stem from that. But, you know, you can see that he was nerfed from the trailer. Like, his back forward 4 is no longer a power crunch, for example.
But the fact that that was ever there makes you go like, oh. Right.
You know, even if it was, I don't think that would be a problem, actually. The problem... Because that move is still, look, it'll be really powerful, even more powerful than it is. But that move is not the reason why Fakumram is what he is. No. It's really simple. It's something that's come apparent through high level play. He's tall, so he has great range. He's super fast, and I think the sticking point that people are not pointing out is that you have these two things, but he also has great damage. Because there is that archetype in fighting games. Look at Vega in Street Fighter. Has the range with his claw, very fast. But he's balanced out by the fact that he can't really do combos. Low damage. Yeah? So he's kind of like the tall, skinny guy character, but he's also really buff.
Yeah.
So he has no... Like, if you're talking about neutral play, he has no real weaknesses.
No, a fantastic punishment. And also something I remember us discussing the character on the Wave Dash podcast, not far away from his initial release. This was quite a while ago. And I was so convinced he was going to be like mid-high tier, something like that. Yeah. And we talked a little bit about his mix-ups, and I remember thinking like, oh, we're soon going to find, you know, the appropriate, oh, just sidestep left into a duck and you'll beat all of his mix-ups. Yeah. But now everyone has pretty much agreed to the fact that from his down forward 1, he has an endless amount of mix-ups, and you have no real defensive option select here. You have nothing you can do other than guess. And then turns out, you know, his hell sweep tracks. It's a bit like Leroy, where their space control is just way too strong. And with Fakumram, the movement and the range, it's...
I think it's the combination of, like, I don't think his mix-up game is ridiculous. I think there are ways around it. I think it's very strong. But the thing is that Fakumram can pick his moments on when he wants to come in. He has unparalleled neutral control.
Yeah.
And then he can choose to engage his mix-ups at his leisure. That's a really unusual combination. So it's really hard to get a hold of his timing on his mix-ups because he can just do it whenever he likes.
Right.
If he was forced to be a bit more of an infighter, I don't think people would be complaining as much.
Right. But I just see it as so problematic that both Leroy and Fakumram, they kind of counter and neuter what I find is the best selling point of Tekken, which is the movement. Leroy's space control with his homing hell sweep that has excellent range, his back four, it's like whenever I play against Leroy, I only guess because there's nothing I can do really. And with Fakumram, I sort of get the same feeling that he controls space too well with his range and his homing options. And I feel like the game increasingly is deterring movement-based gameplay. Worries me a little bit.
It's undeniable. I mean, look at so many of the new characters. Noctis forward two, like Katarina when she first came out, her hop kicks or 444. These characters have long range because developers see that okay, what are good players using to beat weak players? Movement.
Exactly.
What can we do to bridge the gap? Well, let's just give them obscene range. It takes it out of the equation.
Yeah, exactly. And but the question is, like, how much are you willing to sacrifice of the depth of your game to compensate for people who have not spent a lot of time with the game? And
it's concerning for sure. Like and it doesn't bode well, I think, for the future. I think that's one of the reasons why people are a bit frustrated with the direction of Tekken, because you're not playing to the strengths of the engine, you're not playing to the strengths of the game, you're not leveraging why people love this game, and it seems to show a fatal lack of understanding here.
I mean, I'm just overall, I've tried to be very optimistic, and thinking of Tekken 8, I've always sort of imagined that they would try and do something new, but and maybe try and see it as Tekken 7 was a little bit of catering to casuals. I know they still have, going by Harada's words, they still think a lot about the casuals. But more and more, as with many other hardcores in the community, I guess I am getting really, really worried, because Tekken 7 Season 3 has given me this feeling of dread I did not have with Season 1 and 2. And it's mostly thanks, of course, to Leroy and Fakumram. And honestly, what can we even do to those characters? That's the thing. Like, how do you even fix them other than completely hitting the reset switch on them, removing large chunks of a move list? I don't see any other way. They are too all-round, too perfect.
I think Fakumram is easier because I think the way you play optimal Fakumram is run around a lot and bully them with standing 3. And I think if you made his standing 3 is the main problem, I think. Because it's just ridiculous. It's like a 13-frame half-screen poke that leads into a billion options. And especially if you know how to do the 3-4-3 little cancel after it. If you know how to do that little micro dash and pick up with, I think it's down 3, like it's just ridiculous because you have a safe mid that leads into a combo from like half range. With that kind of movement, it's absurd. So I think if they made his standing 3 like 15 frames and they made the whiff recovery a bit higher as well, I think that would go a long way to making Fakumram a bit less obnoxious. But also what I'd like to see is, and I say this in a tweet, is a lot of people saying Fakumram's too fast, this movement is too good. And but instead of nerfing that, why don't you just give everyone better movement? Bridge the gap that way.
And what do you think about these balancing decisions where Gigas, for example, it almost seems like they want him to be the worst character. In my eyes, it certainly looks like it 3 years into the game's lifespan. And then certain characters, you know, like Steve, Jin, Devil Jin, always being strong. Why is Geese Howard, why did he get nerfed and then get a, you know, Moon Slicer that launches for ridiculous damage? Why are certain characters always so strong? Why do you think that is?
I don't think there's any one reason, but certain character archetypes are better suited to tournaments. Like the classical example here is Steve. That character is cater-made for tournaments.
Yeah.
He's not very good at beginner or intermediate levels, and I think the win percent rates online are testament to that.
Yeah,
but that
too.
character in his safety, damage output, in his, you know, you can play him. He's cater-made for tournaments, basically. Very safe, very damaging.
Right.
Um,
But in my opinion, the character worked rather well in Season 1. And then Season 2, he gets a lot of buffs and suddenly the best rage drive in the game.
yeah,
And
that was
Steve is
stupid.
notorious for always being S tier in game after game after game after game. It seems to me like the balancing team kind of favors certain characters.
I think that's undeniable. And I'm sure the character's popularity and perhaps how entertaining they are to watch factors into it. The thing with Gigas is that Gigas is a very basic character. We talked about this, but you can kind of whittle down his game plan into a few moves, and his biggest strength is that he's easy.
Right.
And I think the developers are worried that if we make this character too good, he's going to be an absolute nightmare. But having said that, I think what they need to do with Gigas is just make him move. Like, give him movement. He's so sluggish.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. Like, and you're right. There's certainly some favoritism here. And there are certain characters that always get, you know, the developer's blessing.
Right. Probably getting Season 4. So, in your mind, what should it be? Harad has hinted at a big balancing patch. A big one that's gonna, you know, pretty much involve the majority of the roster. Like, what are... You said you were very carefully... Or was that Tekken 8? Carefully...
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic.
I want to see better netcode, because who knows when tournaments are going to start. That's like priority number one. Like, I don't care about anything else, really. I just want better netcode, because that is how people are going to be playing this game for the foreseeable future, any fighting game.
Right.
You know, the quarantine might be our new normal. You know, we might never have the big scale offline tournaments like we used to until a vaccine comes. Who knows what the future brings? But for now, I think the message is crystal clear. You need better netcode. It's not even a question at this point.
But
it's not a luxury.
How did you interpret Harada's tweets regarding that? Are they working on it, you think?
He's...
I didn't quite understand. We working on it, I think he said. Does that mean we've already done it and it's the free frames, or are they going to do something updated?
I think he's being intentionally vague there somewhat. I think it might be due to, you know, he can't reveal corporate secrets on Twitter, but I got the impression that they're looking to improve the netcode. That they're aware that it's not quite up to par right now. And I think he said there are certain challenges to creating proper rollback netcode for 3D fighting games. Like, I'm not a developer. I'm not one to question that. I mean, having talked to rollback experts, they say that's not really the case. But, you know, I'm not one to question that.
Does he mean maybe that the camera, due to having depth, would, like, jump around a lot or something?
I think it's more to do with the number of animations and number of moves that the characters have. Like, in a typical 2D fighting game, you have like 100 moves, like 20 moves, and there's less animation per move basically. But with a typical 3D fighting game, you have 150 moves, and they all have very, very intricate animations. I'm sure Tekken's animation blending system might work to that. Like, this is a very subtle thing in Tekken, but like, if you do a sidestep into a move or you do a crouch into a move, it has this system where the game will try to make those two animations blend into one another, which is why certain moves are more evasive from a crouch or a sidestep as opposed to doing them from neutral or even a backdash. That might be working. That might be working against it. I don't really know, as I'm not a developer, but
Right.
it seems to me that they're aware of the issue and they're looking to improve it somewhat. And I think that's priority number one. Other stuff I'd like to see is, yeah, I guess Kiri would be super cool. Again, I prefer to see Majima, but again, I don't really want to see a million new characters. Better balance. I actually think season 3 is arguably the most balanced Tekken game out there, aside from a few outliers.
Yeah,
Like
it's so sad because a lot of people speak so highly of season 2. I see a lot of competitive players do this, but again, it's like that's the game that had pretty much a perfect Steve, perfect Geese, perfect Jin, perfect Kazumi. They fixed so much in season 3, but it's such a shame that you have Leroy Fakumram just poisoning everything.
It's really depressing, and as you covered actually on your channel, and as Arslan said, Fakumram straight up banned in Pakistan.
Yeah.
That's kind of unprecedented. And this is the country where all the top Akuba players are from Pakistan, and they decide to ban. But I think that's a good point to bring up. Actually, why would they not ban Akuma, but they would ban Fakumram? Well, 'cause I guess Fakumram takes like 30 minutes to pick up.
I think it's something along those lines that anyone can do well with Fakumram, but with Akuma you need a lot of skill. But yeah, I laughed a little bit at that because Leroy wasn't banned. We saw a lot of people play him, like Atif Butt, and then of course Akuma, which they all said is ridiculously overpowered. It's down to, oh god, this is so broken, but yeah, everyone's playing him. But yeah, Fakumram seems to trigger the most amount of people, I guess. But
I think it's more the straw that broke the camel's back, really.
Yeah. Oh, you're correct.
I think,
yeah.
I think again, as with the whole Leroy thing, Tekken's been such a drama-filled scene for the past year, and it's not any one incident; it's the culmination of many incidents that have built to the current kind of toxic environment we're in now. I'm hesitant to say toxic, but people are not really happy with the direction and they're unsatisfied. And it's not one reason; it's many reasons.
Yeah, it's been such a shift in attitude on the community. Like season 1 and 2, everyone's extremely patient because it's not like the devs were communicative back then. They weren't. It's just like today you get news once in a while, but everyone has a lot of patience when we do get news. Everyone has overwhelmingly positive feedback. Everyone responds sort of well, to balancing. There are some gripes here and there, but not too bad. But as you said, I feel this, where we are at right now, it's like the developers, they get a shitstorm almost no matter what they do. And it all started, I guess, with Leroy, and then pay for frame data, tracking house sweeps. And suddenly it's like all this goodwill that the devs had, it's almost like completely inverted.
Yeah, there have been a few major gaps, and I'll be frank, I do think the community needs to chill out a bit here. There is a real negativity bias.
Definitely.
And they need to recognize that, I believe that Tekken 7 has actually objectively improved over the past couple of years. But there have been a few big mistakes, and they've tried to address them. I mean, they got on Leroy's case. They nerfed him. I don't think he's still quite nerfed enough considering how easy he is, but they've certainly tried. And I think expectations are just higher now when it comes to developer community interactions. I really feel that Bandai Namco needs to hire some kind of proper community manager, and they need to be more open. They need to establish a proper dialogue with the community.
Right.
I think that's so important.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I just want to say that speaking of the interaction between community and developers, it was so worrying to me seeing, tracking hell sweeps suddenly being a thing, and then the biggest community outcry I've ever seen almost, and then they immediately revert it with no explanation. And immediately questions pop into my head like, so, Oh God. So you had an artistic idea with the tracking hell sweeps. You had an idea in mind here in terms of gameplay, but the community rejects it and you immediately reverse it. No explanation. So that tells me, okay, the mob can actually influence the way you're going to balance this game. That means more than the direction you're going in. And also, like, I guess with the tracking hell sweeps, they meant that this is what hell sweeps are going to be now, because we have a lot of tracking hell sweeps ever since Tekken 6, you know, Bob, Leo, Leroy, etc. And I also thought the community was kind of lame there in that I don't want to see tracking hell sweeps, so I'm fine. But Leroy still has a homing hell sweep, and no one's talking about it. There's this legacy bias where people in the community are like, Kazuya is a thing of the past, nostalgic. He should not be allowed to have that. But Leroy, new character, and Fakuram homing hell sweeps, no one really cares.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. And I was, for me, the reason the hell sweep thing was upsetting, it was the lack of clarity and communication as to why. And the way they handled it was the most disappointing thing of all, because they kind of buckled to community pressure, and they was like, oh, sure, yeah, that was a mistake. No, I would have much rather they actually kept that hell sweep and actually gave a justification for it. This is our vision for Tekken. This is why we did that. But no, just another patch note.
It's so disappointing. Not a single word on the topic.
Exactly, and it rammed home the fact that we're not going to justify our balancing decisions. We're just going to do them, and yeah, sure. But the reason people were upset wasn't because of the hell sweep itself. It was the process. It was the way it was handled.
Right.
And yeah, if you have a vision for a game, there must have been some kind of reasoning behind that. And I think if you look at Tekken 7 as a whole, tracking hell sweeps aren't actually that out of place. Tons of hell sweep type moves, like you mentioned, Leroy, have great tracking. And it's just frustrating because I felt like it was like throwing a bone to the community, and maybe some people felt like they were vindicated by it. They felt it was a small victory, but no, I felt it was a massive defeat that they handled it that way.
Yeah.
It felt like, all I wanted was transparency, and they didn't give us that. Or they actually just proved that they'd be willing to buckle to community pressure, which is depressing.
Right. Yeah. And it's easy to get a little bit jealous looking at Soul Calibur patch notes. For those of you who don't know, the Soul Calibur patch notes have like very detailed developer thoughts on every change. Like, this is why we did this is to counteract this, etc. Whereas our patch notes with Tekken 7, it's basically just bare minimum what changed. And sometimes not even in great detail. It just says something very obscure, like effect changed on counter it. And you're like, okay. What do you think are the odds that they are the traditionalist Tekken 7 developers actually take that on board and suddenly actually start explaining why they change the things they do?
I think it's one of the sacred cows that they need to kill in order to move the game forward. There are lots of things to say where people say, this is Tekken, this cannot change, this is tradition, this is the way we've always done things. Just throw it out. You need to adapt. You need to look around. Like every other fight is doing this. And the Soul Calibur's a perfect example because they're also Bandai Namco.
Yeah.
But like it's they're too set in their ways, I think. And I again, I was gonna say it's because Bandai Namco is an old Japanese company. Maybe that's why. But no, Soul Calibur, it's very much down to the teams themselves.
Right. So we gotta wrap this up soon, but I think a good point to close on is actually not too far of a segue from what we were talking about right now. But very traditionalist and very set in their ways, and your production, your channel, we've talked about this before, and why, oh why haven't the Tekken developers reached out to you and just tried to do at least some form of collaboration? You know, in my opinion, just giving you assets to work with is just like bare minimum. If I was them, I would just try to fund you a little bit, you know, or just I don't know, just acknowledging that you exist, you know, by mentioning you on social media. Don't have to go as far as to mention you inside of a game, you know, but you know, could do that. But I don't know. It's
Yeah,
like we've talked about this. They're very set in their ways, and I guess one part of that is that it's a little bit hard for them to actually acknowledge community members and content creators and people like yourself who have spent an ungodly amount of hours the last few years to try and get people to learn how to play this incredibly complicated game, and just recognizing what an asset you are to them, like how much value you create.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. But you know, I just think it's in everyone's favor to try and help each other.
Yeah.
Like I want to help you guys, and if you can help me help you, we can make we can make things a lot better. I feel it was really frustrating, especially recently, because actually we were halfway through this Vakuum Run video. The
Yeah.
script was pretty much done. Like a lot of the recording, editing was done, and then it's like, oh well, you know, here's season 4 possibly, and I'm just like, can you know, I've like we've been making these really like TV quality level videos
Yeah.
for 3 years at our expense, at our time, and it's like none of you even follow me. None of you. I've tried to reach out, but it's completely ignored,
Yeah.
and it's like. And as a contrast, I make one video for Killer Instinct, and Keats, the main battle designer, is like, yeah, great work. You know, he's gonna possibly narrate some of the future videos. It's ridiculous. Like,
And before you
know.
even released that video, I think we talked, and I was like, I said, like, wouldn't surprise me if you just shoot out one video and they're gonna reach out to you immediately or just mention you, and so it wouldn't surprise me. You know, they would be that smart.
It was kind of ridiculous, you know. I don't want to say that I expect them to kind of promote my
This
channel.
is. Can I just interrupt you
just feel-
immediately, because I know someone is gonna watch this and say, "Oh, needy Salami," and it's like, or needy Arya, and it's like, you know what? If Arya was saying this after 2 videos, after 1 month of making content, sure, I would say, you know, stop expecting so much. But after years of putting out, as he said, yeah, objectively TV quality stuff, you know, and just the scripts, Arya's voice and delivery and the visuals, everything is just top notch from a technical and an artistic standpoint. How can they not, you know, at least try and give him some form of recognition? That's just the bare minimum, in my opinion. Just fucking acknowledge it. But honestly, wouldn't everyone win on them just giving Arya some resources, and Arya gets the time to shoot out, you know, a video per week, if that's possible? I mean, to me, it just blows my mind. Just blows my mind.
It would be possible. I mean, look, I kind of made this announcement in the in September now that I'm going to go full time, and actually we had this big plan for this year, a whole team of editors ready, and I had some savings built up. I had a school here, and we were ready to like actually pump out videos quite regularly. Then COVID hits, and everything falls apart because we're supposed to be a coordinated team. Everyone's life circumstances has suddenly changed. And it's like we all got on this car together to go on this awesome journey, and immediately, as soon as we go past the racetrack, the tire comes off, and we're all scraping together to get the engine kind of moving again. It was frustrating, and you know, the fact that we've even managed to get some of these videos out over the past couple of months, it's like we've really been struggling actually, but like the main problem here is manpower. Like the videos take a lot of time to research and record and edit and do the motion graphics and all that kind of stuff, and we just don't have the time or resources as much as we'd like to. And we'd love to do more regular videos. I would have loved to get all the overview series done by now. But and I feel like the community would have really benefited from something like that. Like often when we upload a video like that, someone's like, "Ah, so I see this character in a new light now." And Tekken is such kind of an opaque and dense game that, like, even when we write these scripts, these veterans, like, you know, we have Dino, usually Dinosaur, and a character specialist, and they all kind of chime in. We're all learning as we write these scripts. I mean, Tekken is a super hard game.
Yeah.
It's really hard to pin down the strengths and weaknesses of these characters, and like I said, we learned so much while making these videos. But yeah, the main problem is time, money, and resources.
Yeah. But I mean, there are a lot of us that are super grateful for what you've done, and I think a lot of people don't understand how much time goes into just, for example, Jane Kazama overview, Fengwei overview, those videos. Me having I've worked with animation and editing, and I've done it as a content creator for a long time. When I see those videos, I just go, you know, because I know how much time goes into making stuff like that. So it just blows my mind that you've actually been able to keep this up for so many years. Because that's a thing where I would just make one of those videos and then I would never be able to make one again. Although I did a few guides in Tag 2 on Mishima's, but every one of them I was like, it was so daunting. But you just keep going. And people don't understand this, but Arya has assembled a team to make these videos. You know, he has someone who is highly in tune with Tekken and Tekken balancing. He has editors. He has guys doing artworks, the brilliant Zulfikay. Or you have Chao even doing some translating for you, I think, into Chinese, right? Yeah. It's like, it's a big effort. And you know, those guys also, they get some form of compensation from Arya, and that comes from his ad revenue, you know, on YouTube. And I just want to stress again that if you really like Arya's videos, you can support him on Patreon to, you know, to keep this ball rolling. So I'm gonna try and link it on this video.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. I mean, I'll be frank. Like, every video that we make actually costs me money. And that's money in terms of lost time that I could be working on something else, and it's money that you know, no one gets even minimum wage for creating these videos. So I'll be frank, in this direction, this channel is not sustainable. I'll be real frank on that.
Oh, you are at that point, but that obviously makes sense. And like, if your Patreon is not at a decent level and the ad revenue is not at a decent level, every single hour you put into those videos, you could be doing your normal job. And get more compensation. You know,
before I did this, like I ran my own school from home, and you know, I was doing half the work for several orders more pay, basically more money in the past. But that's fine. I don't want to come across as entitled, or I don't want to come across as ungrateful, because I'm super grateful for this community. It's been really good to me. I really love what I do, but like, I also got to put food on the table. You know, I have a family.
No, there's nothing ungrateful about it. It's like, you've put down so much time into this, and I honestly get pissed off when I know that Bandai Namco haven't reached out to you. It honestly pisses me off. I lose a lot of respect for them due to that.
Yeah, again, I can't, you know, I didn't come into this expecting that we and Bandai Namco be buddy-buddy, but like, after 3 years, it's like, can you maybe tweet out some of my videos? Can some of you guys follow me on Twitter? Can you just acknowledge my existence? Like,
those of you watching, can you imagine that? You've most likely seen one of Arya's videos. Imagine that type of quality production for 3 years, many characters. The developers of this game haven't even tweeted out one of Arya's videos. or mentioned him in a tweet anywhere on any one of their social media outlets. Isn't that remarkable? Honestly, when you look at the quality of his videos, I don't, honestly, I would dare say that no other fighting game has as committed guide or video makers as Blasted Salami. I would dare you to try and find anyone making videos with that type of quality. And after 3 years, he has yet to be mentioned by the developers. Honestly, if that doesn't fucking rub you the wrong way, yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I don't want to kind of plug my Patreon here, but I will a bit. Like, look, even if it's $1 a month, if you buy me a Coke a month, if like 15% of our regular viewers bought me a Coke, I could actually salarize my editors. And we could actually do this. Like, we could do this. We could do this as a community, and we could get videos out on the regular, like super high quality. But, you know, I've been trying to figure out in my mind how to make this channel sustainable. And I think I need to start doing a whole lot more streaming and making more easy videos. We're going to start doing a lot of podcast highlights, like, you know, Joe Rogan highlights. We're going to get little clips from our podcasts and putting them up, so we have more regular content going up to help support the, you know, the high quality videos, which are, frankly, they are an investment. And I was hoping that after like a couple of years, I'd be seeing some return on that investment. But, you know, it's unfortunately not the case. So, yeah, even if it's $1 a month, if that's all you can spare, if many people donate $1, that would completely change things.
Yeah. So I'm going to post this to YouTube. I'm going to put the link to his Patreon below. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to make a contribution of my own. I would just love to see you keep doing what you're doing. It would be, I know you're doing KI now, and I'm so happy that you actually got some form of recognition from the developers. But yeah, I wouldn't want to see Tekken going forward without you, you know, and hopefully Tekken 8 with Blasted Salami. But thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure, man. Thank you. Like, we always have these chats on Discord that seem to go on for hours, and in the end, we're like, we should have recorded that. You know?
I said the same thing earlier this morning. It's like, I don't know how many times. Yeah, he and I talk on the phone just in private, and then we go, yeah, this should have been a podcast. Yeah. We always have good talks, man.
Yeah, we always do, and it's always so much fun. It's always such a pleasure. So, yeah, I'd love to do this kind of stuff more. It's like, you know, it's like talking to a friend. It's great. It's great. And look, I just want to say something about Main Man in particular. Is that when I first started working with Main Man on podcasts, I was honestly getting shit from people. Like, why are you working with Main Man? He's so toxic. He represents X and X and so in this community.
Yeah.
Like, of all the people in this community, Main Man has helped me and supported me and been there for me more than anyone else. Like, as someone who actually knows Main Man, like, he's a good one. He's a real one. Seriously, he's a kind person. So salutes out to you, sir. Like,
yeah,
so
you're
much
too
respect.
kind, man. It's my pleasure, and honestly, likewise to you. Such a great guy, and that's why it really breaks my heart to see that, you know, to see all of this we've just discussed. Great guy and one hell of an effort. But hopefully we can turn it around. That's what I'm hoping for. But again, thank you so much for your time, man.
Pleasure, man. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.